I'm Laura Ingraham. This is Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Well, I'm a former white-collar criminal defense lawyer. You might not have known that about me. And I read the entire 16-page indictment handed down by left-wing New York DA Alvin Bragg, and here's my reaction. Just another political hit job.
Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about.
Well, a blatantly false statement. Here's the only thing non-lawyers need to know about this case. If after the 2020 election, Donald Trump had announced that he was retiring from politics, Alvin Bragg would not have indicted him. Or let's say if after 2020, Trump had gradually evolved in his views and maybe became more like Romney or one of the Bushes. In that case, Alvin Bragg would not have indicted him. The real reason that Donald Trump was booked and fingerprinted today comes down to one simple fact. He has the wrong political views. Now, to the entire class of politicians and media figures who cheered the proceedings today, Donald Trump represents an existential threat. A threat to the regime that's run our country into the ground for decades, a threat to the credibility of the media that he calls out relentlessly. But most significant of all, another Trump term is a threat to the Biden family and their nonstop grift machine. Alvin Bragg is more like Alvin Bag, because he's nothing but the bag man for the White House, hoping his reward comes when he runs for, let's say, governor as the Trump slayer. Yet right now, he's just the middleman for the DNC and an illicit scheme to interfere in the 2024 election cycle. In his astonishingly thin indictment, Bragg alleges that it was Trump who may have, now I say may have, attempted to interfere in the 2020 election or may have violated state election laws by allegedly ordering that former mistresses be paid off, then concealing the reimbursement of those payouts. Now, in a few moments, we're going to be talking with the former chair of the Federal Election Commission, who will explain why the FEC decided against pursuing the case on similar grounds. But as we suspected last week, the question Bragg left everyone asking today is, where's the beef?
Here's where we're going to run into legal problems, because the indictment does not say what that second crime is, which is completely inexplicable to me. The entire point of an indictment is to tell the defendant, here's what you're charged with. He said federal campaign election law, but this is New York State. So he said state election law, but this is a campaign for president, which is a federal office. And there's literally one word about this in the statement of fact. It said something about tax, but they didn't take a deduction. I have real questions about this.
It's disappointment. It's hard to imagine convincing a jury that they should get there.
One source said to me, this is Donald Trump. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
I had hoped that there would be more in the indictment.
Translation, this case is a dead dog in the middle of the road. Have someone come pick it up and give it a prompt burial. But the portly DA tried to sell his case today and inadvertently engaged in some stand-up comedy.
These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
What? Normalizing serious criminal conduct is all his office ever does. Like the case from over the weekend where a parking garage attendant saw a man casing the cars in his garage. He confronted the suspect, who then pulled out a handgun and shot the parking attendant twice. The worker, Musa Diarra, wrestled the gun away and shot the suspect in the chest. Now, in the real world, where I tend to live, the worker did the right thing. But in the Bragg world, the parking attendant was charged with attempted murder along with the actual criminal. This is insane. Bragg finally backtracked and announced only after public outcry that he would not prosecute Diarra. But you know he would have if he could have. The damage has already been done. But you really, really know this case against Trump is like a leaky roof when even Mitt Romney throws shade at Bragg. Romney's saying that Bragg is trying to fit a political agenda, and his overreach sets a dangerous precedent for criminalizing political opponents. Well, the one good thing that may come out of this dark chapter, though, for America will be what I want to just dub tonight as state Bragg laws, where state legislatures decide to disincentivize state DAs or state AGs from using their positions as battering rams against individuals and corporations simply to feather their own political resumes. These laws would bar the state AGs or the DAs from running for governor, let's say for at least 10 years, or maybe ever. Think about the history in New York alone, where hyper-political prosecutors use their office to try to advance their political careers. If prostitution scandal, if that hadn't derailed him, former state prosecutor turned governor Eliot Spitzer might have made it too. They were talking about him as president. In 2004, the elite's favorite magazine, The Atlantic, dubbed Spitzer the Crusader and proclaimed that he was the future of the Democrat Party. Heaven help us. The bottom line is this Bragg saga is yet another urgent warning that we must have a federal criminal justice system that Americans of all political backgrounds will trust to do what is right, not one that will deliver political dividends either for his party or for him personally. Our justice system at every level should be the envy of the world, not a laughingstock.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.